politics, I'm involved in government directly because he was involved in politics and government. You know, he was a state senator before me, and so there was no doubt that he cleared a path so I could be one. So directly. The way he fought for people who didn't have, and people who didn't know that they didn't have, is a part of who I am. That's why the school exists. Because we need to have a better school in that area than what you all would have had if we didn't have a school. So that's an outcome of him. That's how he operated. Fighting against all odds. You know, when people say you can't, you say you can.
First thing I want to say is that I regard Hardy Williams as the father of the black political reform movement in the city. That back in 1968, Hardy Williams came to me and a few other people and talked about the need for African Americans in the city to be about kind of moving away from the idea that only the party could support people and have them elected to office. That he wanted to generate and create an independent movement. So in 1968, along with John F. White Sr., Hardy Williams and I and a few others organized something called the Black Political Forum. And the purpose of the Black Political Forum was to run candidates and support candidates for office who were not endorsed or handpicked by the Democratic Party and elect them to office in that process. Hardy Williams became the very first candidate that ran for office for the State House in the 181st District. And I supported him because Hardy Williams embodied in all of the ideals and all of the things I saw in a candidate in order to bring about transformation in the political process in the city, that able to disconnect the control of the Democratic Party over the African American communities back in the late 1960s and early 1970s. So my support and my working for him as his campaign manager was really to begin to generate an atmosphere in the city that you don't have to be supported by the Democratic Party in order to be elected to an office in the city. He ran and we were successful in electing for the first time in the city an African American without the benefit of the Democratic Party support. That led to many other significant independent movements in the city that brought about eventually my election as mayor of the city about 14 years later.
For this school to take on the name of Senator Hardy Williams, I would expect nothing less than greatness from its students and from the faculty and from all those who work under that banner of Senator Hardy Williams. He was about excellence. He was about being all that you could be. He would not accept no excuses for why you could not achieve and obtain. That's what I would expect. And I look forward to it.
I think Hardy Williams introduced me to the whole notion of independent political movement in the city. He was the one who sought me out, came to my neighborhood in Pasco. I was a community leader, and said to me, "I've heard some things about you. I want you to join with me in helping to create this independent political movement by African Americans in the city." Hardy Williams, therefore, became his campaign, his movement became the laboratory for my learning about independent political movement in the city. and I was able to learn a lot about how to run for office, how to be elected to office by working in his campaign, by learning from him, who at that time was a ward leader and had a good understanding of the political process in the city because of his role as a ward leader. So I would say that Hardy Williams essentially gave me the tools I need to be successful in the political movement in the city of Philadelphia.
You need to look at the entire world, not just your neighborhood. You need to look at what the world is doing. That's, you know, my father grew up really poor. Excuse me, I'm cold. So it amazes me that he really looked at the world beyond where he grew up. He grew up wanting to be a gym teacher because that's all he sort of knew. And then he found out being a lawyer and decided to become a lawyer. There was no lawyer in his family. There was no example. Anybody went to law school? He went to University of Penn Law School, Penn State. There was no example of that. He just looked at the world beyond it. So you all need to be students of the world and let that set your bar. So that means the students in China, depending on what they're doing in science and math, you need to say, we need to achieve that. The students who are in Pakistan or India or on the continent of Africa and South Africa, all those who are excelling in the world, you need to use those examples and then bring them back and use parts of that as your own motivation to do whatever you're going to do in terms of greatness, and set out to be leaders. You know, whatever area you're going to endeavor to participate in, you should be a leader in that area. Those two things.